Hey there, witches. Welcome to the end of day 9 of the October YouTube pagan vlog. I'm never going to get those words in the right order without actually looking at them. I again had high hopes for today because the word of the day is path, and I have a whole little story I usually tell, but I had a horrible migraine and sort of been sidelined for most of the day. So, and the fire will be quick because we're expecting wind, and I want to be sure it's completely out before I start editing videos. So, path. My path started when I was but a young lass. Probably 10, 11 years old. No, we'll go back further than that. My father was a Boy Scout leader, Cub Scout leader. And he would, whenever he had camping events, he would take us kids, me and my brother at the time, with him to go camping with him. I'm going to put this down somewhere, so... Just a second. You can still hear me talking, though, I hope. So, we would always go camping, and I loved it. Loved going camping. Surprise. Out in the open and all that good stuff. So, fast forward. Sorry about that. Fast forward a little bit to, I was probably, that's hot, 10, 11, and my own father started his own journey to figure out his path. He was a born and raised Baptist, and much like many Baptists, they're convinced that if you're not a Baptist, you're going to hell. And he didn't believe that. So he started going to different churches to figure out what felt good to him. And being the oldest kid, and Mom not really interested at the time, I got to go. So I got to experience all the different little churches around where we used to live, including spending a few Shabbats with a Jewish friend of his. And I thought it was all incredibly fascinating. My favorite service of all the ones we went to was the Catholic one. I loved all of the, well, now I know the ritualistic aspect of it. I loved the veneration of the Virgin Mary. I loved it all. I didn't understand completely inside why, but I did. And, well, my father found his path, so much to the point, so now that it's, 30 some odd years later, and he's a preacher for that particular religion. But myself, let's see, that was about 10, 11 years old. At 13, I got my first job. I was working in a library. So now I had the whole world of books available at my fingertips. And I started reading about world religions. Now, at the time, it was mid-80s. So a lot of the stuff was probably a little dated then because we were in a small town. But I remember reading the chapter on witchcraft, basically, in one of the books, and thinking in my head, no, this isn't right. I mean, it was very boo-boo, scary. And I'm like, no, this isn't, something didn't sit right with me. And then I found the book, The Mists of Avalon, by Marion Zimmer Bradley. And my world changed. I had a name for it. Everything I felt, everything I experienced when I'm outside, it had a name. And now I knew why the chapter in that quote-unquote nonfiction book on witchcraft didn't seem right. But this fictional tale seemed spot on. So now we travel through time, and I'm still reading, and I'm going to church with my dad because, it's a small town. What else do you do? And I get out on my own, and I get to college. Let's start with college first. And, being the little rebel that I am, sitting down in this area, and I hear this dude talking about, I guess he was kind of trolling now that I think back on it, telling all the native ladies, oh no, he didn't believe in Jesus Christ or God or anything like that. And I chirp up, and I'm like, oh, you're one of those. And he says, one of what? And I sat down next to him and said, you're a witch. And he goes, takes one to know one, sister. And there my journey began. He showed me the book, Drawing Down the Moon by Margot Adler. And I devoured it in one night and went, yes, this is it. This is it. So, and then it just went from there. I mean, finished college, moved out on my own. Turned out my best friend from high school was also involved in this, and he didn't know I was interested. I didn't know he was interested. And then the movie The Craft came out, and a bunch of us who live action role played decided to go see it. So we get there, and there are 13 women, one very nervous guy. And we watched the movie, and, you know, it's The Craft. We all know. So, afterwards, we're at a coffee shop, and we start talking, and it turns out, not only had I had the passing interest in The Craft, but so did two of my friends. It was just something nobody ever talked about. And that was the beginnings of, I think, the very first open type of coven I ever participated in. These were my first rituals with other people, first rounds of magic, you know, following the cycles, learning officially. And it was wonderful. It was lovely. And riding on a bus one day, and this old dude sits down next to me, and he notices my pentacle. And he says, now you know you have a job to do. And I'm thinking, okay, what's that? And he says, you have to unite the tribes. And I'm like, oh. And he puts his hand on my leg, and he's like, you have to unite the tribes. And then he gets off the bus. And that stuck with me. Stuck with me through years, through moving, through reestablishing myself in a community where the pagan community itself had fractured and splintered. And all I could still hear in my head was, you have to unite the tribes. So it's going on, again, I'm dating myself 20 years now, when I started basically hey, there are other witches and pagans in this small community. Let's get together. Let's at least know who each other are. We don't have to practice the same thing, but we should be aware of each other. And that group has grown from 3, 4, 5, 6 people who'd get together for coffee in the odd spot or spot every now and then to, wow, there's well over 100 people on the Facebook group scattered all over this area. And we do gather for the big stuff. And it's still in my head to gather the tribes. And I'm thinking that the next evolution of this, it started off as an email list, and then it went to Facebook and social media. And I think the next evolution is what I'm doing. Oh, my fire's going. And that is videos. And just putting these thoughts out there. In the middle of that, I'd say about 5, 6 years ago, a friend of mine was officially studying for her Wiccan degrees, and she had entered into her second degree and needed to teach a first degree, preferably locally if she could. And at this point, I'd been walking my path for a very long time, and I thought, well, one can always learn, but really, what am I going to learn taking a first degree class? I actually was shocked at how much I learned. I learned a lot. And I followed it through first, second, and third, and graduated. So for a while there, I was calling myself the, third degree Wiccan priestess. And that is basically a certificate on my wall. But I've gone back to basically just being an eclectic witch in general. I pull from all pantheons. My fire's officially almost gone out. I pull from all the pantheons and do what feels comfortable with me. And that works. But I believe we never stop learning. We're always growing, learning new things about ourselves, about each other, about the divine, new ways to practice. I have been rambling for a lot longer than I thought I would be able to do. But, yeah, that's pretty much been the short synopsis of my past. Starting from a wee lass, a few moons ago, cough, 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 to, where we are now in this video, and you all watching and participating in this vlog challenge. So I'm going to leave it for today, and I will see you tomorrow for day 10. I don't remember the word, but hopefully I'll be a little more prepared. So blessed be everybody.